Welcome to the Investor Shed Podcast with Nick Beveridge, the ultimate source for all things investing and beyond. For free tools, tips, and tricks, go to northidahorei.com. Today's episode features Matt Bullis. Matt is a rockstar lender from one of the largest private capital firms in the area. Nick and Matt talk about how investors can get construction and development loans, personal growth, and much more. Stay tuned.
All right. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Matt Bullis.
Nick Beveridge. How are you?
I'm excellent today. Thank you.
Glad
so,
to
Matt
hear
Bullis, you are
your new lender.
How would you describe your job or your career, whatever you want to call it?
You know, it's funny because
so you're pretty damn good at it.
I spent about 10 years in management and entrepreneurship, and I never thought I'd be a sales guy. Before any of this happened, you know, and somebody will call me a sales right now, somebody will call me a manager, whatever you want to do. My dad spent 30 years in sales. My sister, 15 years in sales. I was the black sheep. I wasn't ever to go into that industry. Mm-hmm. But this one's interesting because I get to run the entire side of the state. And so, you know, yes, I'm originating new loans and that kind of thing, but I also get to create relationships with every single borrower, keep in touch with them, walk sites.
I'm just going to move this a little closer to you.
Sorry, there we go.
Sorry.
I'm leaning back.
No, that's okay. You can lean back.
So it's very, very similar to my roles in management. You know, it's I don't care what you call it. It's managing a system, which is one of my specialties. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the company that you work with or for? Are you part owner at all?
Four.
Four?
No, I definitely work for them.
Yeah.
I
Large
have
company.
stock, but so I guess it's ownership, but
so Broadmark Capital.
Yeah.
And they manage over $1 billion in funds, right?
That 1.375 and some change. Last time I kept track.
And they niche in development loans, right?
Construction development loans, yeah. So we're talking about doing the heavy lifting on construction projects.
What's an average loan?
For me or for anybody?
For just in general that your company does or focuses on?
You know, I'm kind of one of those guys that focuses really, really heavily on my area. Mm-hmm. I would have an average loan of anywhere from $2 to $4 million, but that includes a lot of loans under $1 million because those are some of the guys I like to work with the best.
Yeah.
Kind of figuring out where to start and kind of excel from there. I'm probably one of the few guys in Broadmark that's going to say that. I'm the only originator that doesn't have a major metropolitan area in his region. So, you know, everybody else you talk to is going to have a very large city in their region and therefore much larger loans.
Yeah. How many states are you guys in?
Don't quote me, but I think it's 12.
About 12 states?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could name them off for you if you'd like, but I'll miss a couple.
Yeah. And you guys recently got on the New York Stock Exchange or something?
We did, yeah. We sold we merged in November 15th of 2019. We were Pia Broadmark Management.
Wasn't too long ago?
No, 7 months ago, crazy enough. It was again, don't know much about it, but a very advantageous move for the company. Lots of super positive things that happen as a result of that for our borrowers. Mm-hmm. But I kept out of it for the most part. So I quote unquote have people for you to talk to if you'd like to hear about the stock part of that system. But what it did for me was it really allowed us to kind of broaden our horizons just even more than we already had. And focus on continuing the growth of our expansion in this region.
Nice. So so you just gave me a loan for almost $1 million. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And we didn't really know.
Just kidding. That's not
very
my
first
money.
loan too.
It was not my money.
I know. But I thought it was amazing the way we were able to structure that because I don't know if you want to go into depth about how most investors, if they want to get into new construction, how they should structure, you know, themselves or how much money they can expect to put down or what they need to contribute to get a loan. Do you want to talk on that at all?
Sure, absolutely. Anything you'd like
to... I guess the investor should have a little bit of experience, right? Or do you guys take people that are brand new?
You know, So the shorter question to what Broadmark does do is what it doesn't do. It doesn't do loans that don't make sense. Mm-hmm. So you could come to me. Let's take your loan for example. Now I guess it's my turn to ask you some permissions.
Sure.
To go into
I'm
a little bit of
total
detail.
open book.
How many loans have you closed to build new construction homes in your lifetime?
None.
Right? So it's a
well, and I got an FHA loan on my house, but that was was not me. As it was a big builder, just in town where you just sit down and pick out your finishings, but it had nothing to do with me being in the building process.
Yeah, this is your first. This is your first system with Broadmark. So to answer your question, absolutely, we do loans with guys. It's their first time. Mm-hmm. We got your loan closed in record time. Now, do I get to boast as Broadmark for that? A little bit. 90% of it was you guys. I asked you to jump. You asked me how high. I asked you to jump repeatedly. You asked me how many times. I mean, it was like it's a system of time being money. And you came to me and said, all the things out of the way. We deal with a lot of ego in our industry. You know that very well, being in the industry for many, many years. Yeah. Lots of ego, right? Uh-huh. I can build this. I don't know why you need me to do a GC. I've sold 10 houses. I can build a house. You hear all kinds of weird stuff, but you guys didn't come with any of that. It was, we're looking to get this project done. We've researched this area very heavily. We're bringing in the land free and clear. We're doing all these things that we think a lender would like.
Yeah.
It's just common sense. The reason your loan was closed so quickly was because you guys were such a delight to work with. Loans can close in a slower time, and people are still a delight to work with. It took me quite a bit longer, but I just closed a 78 lot unit development project in Ponderay, Idaho. Had nothing to do with how much of a delight they were to work with, because they're some of my favorite people on the face of the planet. But there was some acquisition dollars, there was some development dollars, and we're in the middle of my first global pandemic at going on 38 years old, right? So
mine too.
Yeah, right. So we were here.
Yeah.
Cheers to our first global
pandemic.
Funny.
So this is made in Ponderay.
Good beer.
This is made in the
no
town
way.
that you just did a loan in.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
What's the IPA from Laughing Dog? Because there's a good one.
Trails End, maybe?
Maybe.
We got a bunch of that.
Yeah. That's really interesting because I've heard of Laughing Dog way back when I was in Missoula, Montana. And I'm excited to see it's from Ponderay, Idaho.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So an agent on our team, Caitlin Kristenak, she's a manager at Laughing Dog, so she's always hooking us up with good deals.
With good dented can deals.
Good dented can deals.
I love to see it.
It's great. Yeah. But it's great beer.
Broadmark's weird, and I mean that in the best possible way. It's a huge company as far as the amount of capital that my bosses and the people that are above me have amassed. But we operate like a couple, three guys sitting at a table on a Friday afternoon with a couple $100,000 to spend. I mean, it has everything to do with how we feel about things.
Yeah.
Whether or not we think the people that are borrowing money from us can get the job done. There's so much deliberation and common sense to what I do that I don't think I could do with any other company but Broadmark.
Yeah. Well, I was pretty impressed going through the whole application process because it almost felt like I was getting a normal loan. But you only ask for the essential stuff and things, common sense things that my banker, when I get a conventional loan, they don't always ask for, like, hey, tell us a little bit about your the deals that you've done.
Right.
They don't care about that.
Right.
They just care about your DTI.
Right.
But no, it was actually a pleasure going through that. It wasn't bad at all.
There's a lot of guys that say they do what we do and they don't. But there's a lot of guys that do exactly this. They're just a smaller scale. I think that one of the Broadmark's biggest boasting points is they've been able to grow as rapidly as they have and still keep that feel of a hard money lender with some soul added to the project.
Yeah, no kidding.
So,
well, I just think it's incredible that it would have taken me a long time to save up $1 million, but we were able to piece it all together within just a few months. I think I had $15,000 of my own cash into it.
My dad taught me a lot of things.
Yeah.
And he told me that when he was building houses, he said, I was young when he started to build houses. He said, I'll make it very easy for you. Building a house is 10 headaches. And if you can build another house after you're done with the first and you can make it 8 headaches, then you're good. And then if the third house you can make it 6 headaches, then you're doing great, and you know, so you get the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what you really figured out with Broadmark, and what a lot of my current customers have figured out, is that the finance side of a construction or development project of any kind is a headache, and it will always be a headache if you try and switch and find the best deal and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
But money is a product just as much as the lumber that you choose or the tiles on the roof that you choose. They're all products, and so if you choose to buy a nice pair of boots, then they're gonna last longer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, I'm just appreciative of what you guys were able to do, because and you're even spot on with the estimating the fees way back then when we met in that coffee shop. Because I remember plugging those into my spreadsheet at the time, and then adding a little bit extra because we got another lot under contract.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only like $2,000 off with what it ended up coming up to be with all of it, because I didn't know until the day we were closing what the fees were.
Right.
But it was $2,000 better than I thought it'd be. So that wasn't too bad. That was great.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. No junk fees in there at all. It was just the two main things. So anyway, beyond that, what got you started in? Because you were a teacher before this, right?
Yeah, so I have a BFA in ceramic technology, believe it or not. I'm a studio potter, and I also have a BA in art education, both from the University of Montana at Go Grizz. And so I finished that in 2009. I used to boast prior to that of never applying for a job I didn't get. My dad raised me well. He made me put a suit on to apply for a job at Kinko's when I was 16 years old. But that year, I applied for 56 positions. I got 7 interviews and 0 offers, because it was in the middle of the worst economic crisis that America had seen in quite a while, and a lot of people that had previously retired early, et cetera, et cetera. Not to make the story too long, but everybody had to go back to work, right? So I'm going up against people with 15, 20 years teaching experience, and I'm this new kid, you know, pushing my glasses up against my face every couple of minutes, trying to get a job.
So was that back 08, 09?
09, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I went to, at that time, I went to go to work as a car salesman with no experience at a new Chevy Chrysler dealership.
There you
They
go.
both went bankrupt within a few months of me working there. But still made it work.
Right?
The dealership stayed open.
And it's all about how you make it work, right? I decided I wasn't going to continue chasing a dream that didn't have a financial backing at the moment. I knew I could always come back to it. And then life happened, you know, so I ended up taking a few management positions, and found myself about 4 years later working on a commercial construction project in Missoula, Montana. Now, Broadmark doesn't lend in Montana yet. Don't get me wrong, that's on my list of to-do things, but we're not there yet.
You want to drive more?
Yeah, I want Montana. I want to drive through Montana as part of my job. That would be a wonderful thing. But I'm a Montana boy. I got a lot of family over there. I found myself wanting to find I'm an entrepreneur. I built and sold a couple of companies, and I wanted to build a sandwich shop and an art gallery. I was being real hippie. I was like, man, this is what I need to do, right? I need to live in the place where I went to college and do this. And the building I wanted to do it in was downtown Missoula, and had been sitting for years without a for sale sign on it or anything. So I did some nerdy homework, and in Montana, it is homework. So, you know, Washington is different. Idaho is very similar to Montana. Finding who owns the building is not as easy as it looks.
Yeah.
So I ended up, long story short, being 50% partner in the renovation of that exact building inside of a few weeks. And Jeff Pyatt knew my father really well, and so he started to mentor me on that project. And not to toot his horn, I'm sure he'll never listen to this, but this guy has every minute of his day is very, very valuable. And yet here he was at 8:30 in the morning, every Monday morning, calling me or me calling him, and running exercises on how this building is going to get built and what I haven't thought about. He spent sometimes an hour on the phone with me, making sure I was doing it right. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't making a dime on anything. It all had to do with him. He lined somebody up to fund this project, and I just couldn't get over the fact that this was happening. So, long story short, I ended up coming back to Washington to be closer to my family, and I asked him for a job.
Nice.
And he gave one to me. So.
And that was one of the original owners?
He is the owner. So it was Pyatt Broadmark Management until November of 2019.
Okay.
Him and Joe Schocken, and a variety of other people. Brian Graff was his partner from when I started in 2016 to 2019.
Okay.
And we went public, and now Jeff's the CEO. Brian's my vice president, and Joe is very, very important. I don't know what his title is. And also one of the best guys I've ever met.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, okay. So for the last 4 years, you've been have you been in kind of the same position, giving out construction loans mostly, or development loans?
Yeah. I started off as just here. Give me some cards with my name on them. Let me go. Spread the good word. I had a full-time job. I was a director of a before and after school advanced learning program for rich nerdy kids in South Richland, and love them to death. But that's what I was doing, and I said, this is not a full-time job right now. If you don't have a single loan closed in Eastern Washington, it came from Jeff. He's like, it's going to take you a while to get going. So we started very slow, kind of a slow grand opening, and then just started to pick up rather quickly. As you know, this is a very, very great place to invest your capital in real estate, and there's a lot of advantageous things happening in Eastern Washington and Northern Idaho that make us insusceptible, wrong terminology, that makes us almost bulletproof to the things that are happening in other places. And that usually has to do with inventory and the lack thereof.
So you and your company probably have a really good grasp on the market in general, right? And certain locations. If you had to guess, which region of the U.S. would you say is like probably going to be the most solid as far as growth goes for the next foreseeable future? Granted, there's going to be recessions. There's going to be recessions regardless, national. But like, if there's any true is there any kind of unrecognized opportunity, in your opinion, of a location in the Northwest or Southwest, or that you feel Broadmark is like always given kind of a green light in certain locations?
And this is going to sound like a lot of bias, and so I will just kind of premise it with that.
Okay.
But where we are right now is being looked at nationally by many, many firms.
Northwest?
Not just the Pacific Northwest, but primarily the Spokane, North Idaho, and Tri-Cities regions.
Okay.
We've got some great regions. One of our rockstar loan originators out of the Mountain West region, which is Colorado, Utah, and Texas. I think we have Texas because of him. Brett, if that's not true, I'm sorry. But there's fantastic opportunities in those places as well. We have a southeast region, which is Florida, Georgia, I think the Carolinas, and Tennessee. And
how are those markets doing? You any idea?
Not sure, but I could send you in the right direction. But I'm pretty sure they're doing very well. We've closed a number of loans in the middle of COVID down there as well.
Oh, okay.
So things are doing well. There's also an incredible team. I say that about every region we have because I just got to be real with you. Broadmark is very good at hiring great people. But bringing us back to the people who are probably listening to this, there was a Veros report when things were starting to hit the fan, and I don't know if you ever saw that, or maybe
you sent it to me, a couple weeks into like the lockdown of COVID,
things
and
were crazy.
I was pretty nervous, and then I saw that report, and that kind of helped relieve some anxiety.
Yeah, and there's
because I had worked in Orlando as a real estate agent when the market was at its worst.
Really?
And I was always expecting another recession to come eventually.
Right.
And the way Gary Keller was talking, just as COVID was hitting, and they're all just saying, okay, this is it. It's downhill from here.
Right.
And I kind of forgot that, weather isn't nationwide. It's local.
Sure. Not just weather, but again, going back to, getting down to the brass tacks of the situation. And this happened to me and helped me very much. Again, I owe everything to my dad and what I'm about to say, but if you look at an entire pie and somebody says eat the pie, you're going to look at it very dauntingly. But if somebody cuts it up and says, eat some pie, all of a sudden, it's very exciting. And it doesn't matter what the pie is, unless you hate it. My mom's into sour cream and raisin pie. So if you cut that up and said, eat some, I'll say, no, thanks. But
sour cream and raisin?
Yeah, it's not.
That's a thing?
It's a thing. Oh. My grandmother made it, and if my mom ever listened to this, she'd wallop me on the head for making fun of it. But my point
I like
of
sour
it is,
cream and onion chips.
Right, which are great. My point is that look at things as they pertain to you, right? So you're worried about, the market's going bad. Okay, we're doing this. Well, what kind of products do I work with that are resilient to bad markets? And what happened to these things? And rather than looking at things from the big picture, which I think that our entire society is very, very guilty of, especially the more people are wealthy, the more they kind of forget about the details. So yes, real estate blank is doing bad or something like that. I'm speaking out, I'm shooting from the hip because I don't pay attention to those broad blanket terms. I want to look at like what's going on in my region, what did not affect, what was not affected, what was affected. Think about ways that I can create value to a situation. Mm-hmm. I mean, I ran a detail shop, and that's what it was. I was detailing like high-end cars in Portland, and these are the same rules I used with that, right? As a teacher running an art, a pottery class, how can I create value to this situation, right? Yeah. It's a simple idea. You're going to have problems with certain kinds of real estate that would sit if the market takes a dive, right? So what kind of products sit when the market takes a dive?
Unfinished new construction, high-end anything,
high-end stuff. Right? Mm-hmm. So in a great market, you go and building $750,000 construction budget homes that are selling for $1.6 million, $1.8 million. God, those are great numbers, aren't they? But the second that hard money
until those buyers go away.
Yeah, the buyers go away, and now all of a sudden your home's done, and it's been sitting for 7 months, and you're paying a monthly interest rate. So how much of that profit are you eating up by having that home sit?
All of it pretty quick.
All of it, or more than all of it, which is where horrible situations happen, right?
Yeah.
So think about that when you're getting into something. In a great market, don't try and take advantage of it. Try and stick with those products that would be great in a bad market. Sure, you might make less per product. You guys are a great example of that. You went into a market with a really great cost per square foot, right? Did you guys choose to build a cost product of $700,000 that could sell for $1.2 million?
No.
Could you have done that right now and sold those homes?
I mean, it's not proven.
Not proven, but you could have, right?
Maybe.
You're in an area, you're on one of the most beautiful lakes. Again, biased. You're in a very beautiful area. You're on a beautiful lake. Your proximity to that lake, even where you were building, was a short, a 3-minute drive, if not a 12-minute walk or a 5-minute bike ride.
It's a community of water.
You can come in and say, I can build whatever I want. Somebody's going to buy it here, and you would have been right. But you chose, even in a good market, and we closed your loan in the middle of COVID, and I understand that, but COVID will eventually go away, probably mostly by the time you guys finish construction. You chose to build something that was, in what I like to call recession resilient. Now, I don't want anybody to use that term without saying I said it, because Broadmark didn't say that. Matt Bullis said that, right? But recession resilient means it's a product that something bad could happen, and somebody's still trying to move to this region and buy a $400,000 house. A 1,700 square foot 3-2 house is going to go for whatever the market goes for, no matter what happens, because there's no inventory.
Yeah, and inventory's been on our side.
Very smart move for you guys.
We weren't anticipating, but COVID really helped with our market, as if it didn't need enough help.
Right. Why do you think it helped? Not to put you on the spot, but...
Well, I'm also a real estate agent, and we get buyer leads, and we've never had this many leads come in from out of state of people that want to get out of California or get out of Washington, right. And it's just looking like The Walking Dead over there or whatever. It's apocalypse. Right? They think, a lot of people think, these are extremely bad times, and we need to go to a safe haven, and that safe haven is North Idaho in a lot of cases. And, the locals just kind of are privy to it, or they don't, they just enjoy living up here, but they don't realize just how restricted it can be in other areas, or where we just, I don't know, we're during the middle of COVID when we had a lockdown and they forced all the businesses that are non-essential to shut down, or that are non-essential, shut down. I saw the same amount of traffic every day to work.
Yeah.
Traffic didn't slow down. There's this Wiggs place that was still open. This little flower shop was still open. Up here, and my neighbor is a police officer, and he said, "Yeah, we're not going to do anything about that. It's unconstitutional." Yeah. And it's just the people generally in this area are they take freedom first before fear.
Sure.
And they allow people to take their own risk for the most part.
Right.
Where in other areas, maybe people don't appreciate being told what to do as much. And that's what's causing them to come here in just a mass scale. We'll put a lead on Facebook, and where we would normally get maybe 4 leads on Facebook, pre-COVID.
Right.
Over the course of a listing being on the market for a couple of weeks, we might get we got 70 in one day, one morning once.
Really?
We've gotten hundreds of leads just in the last month. Right. Hundreds. And that's just one way to predict, what's happening here. And the inventory levels have not. They haven't changed like in other areas. Inventory is still really hard to come by. Any house priced under $300,000 in Kootenai County right now is just selling either off market or the first day.
Sure.
It's becoming really hard for people that have lived here for a while that just have a normal job to even afford a house.
Right.
Just because you have so much money from outside the state, if they're used to paying higher prices on real estate, they're just coming here and they're just buying whatever they want.
Absolutely.
And it's just, the appreciation is still just being pushed to its limits every year. Yeah. The last few years. So, but that's, I don't know, what can you do other than service those people?
Like I make jokes whenever so Pondere is a great example. So I don't know if it's okay. I think the guys will be okay with me talking about this, but we closed the loan with Jake Humble and Rick Decker of Appraisal Associates in Sandpoint, Idaho, and with help from George Hansen, who's a prolific real estate developer, many years experience. And Rick and I walked through a property with ponderosas and tamarack stands, just beautiful, gorgeous stands. And it was back in the fall. As I'm sure from North Idaho you're familiar, the tamarack is the one coniferous tree that loses its needles in the fall. And so if you're in a tamarack stand and you look down, the entire the pathway that you're on or anything like that has this gorgeous golden color of tamarack needles. And we just made our joke, he's a Montana Grizz boy, so we connected pretty fast, and the idea of us being the guys that are going to turn this beautiful stand into houses, from a 30,000 foot perspective, this sucks, right? But we don't get to help. We don't get to choose how quickly Americans procreate. Yeah. Right. So the fact is, the people are our population is rising at an exponential rate. People are moving to certain areas at an exponential rate. These are things we can't handle. Yeah. So let's find that we can
help by building houses.
But we can help them. We can help. Yeah. And if it's not smart guys like you and me and Rick and Jake that are making these things happen, then it's going to be some dumb idiot that's making it happen. They're not going to do it better. They're going to do it worse, right? Yeah. So it's better to have people that think about, gosh, this is a beautiful place, but let's make sure that we get to keep some of these trees. Rick and Jake are a great example. That entire development that they're creating, they've got green spaces and walking paths, and
that's good.
They're keeping literally as many trees as they're able to keep.
I really got to go check out that neighborhood because I know we were interested in buying a couple lots if we could.
Come up with me on Friday.
Friday?
We'll go on Friday, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're gonna put the boat in on Pondy for the first.
What time frame are you going up?
I'll be there about 3, so I'll give you a shout.
Okay.
We'll get it figured out.
I forgot what I'm doing Friday.
And bring us some
I might
champagne,
be able to
so
make it.
don't do anything afterwards.
Okay. Champagne.
Point.
What are you doing with champagne?
Because these guys did such a great job.
Oh, okay.
I'm excited for them to get done. Just like I'm excited for you guys to build in Dover. North Idaho.
Don't you need cigars for that?
I should. You're right. I should get some.
They bringing their
cigars.
wives?
Yeah.
So, no.
I love the idea of what we're doing. We
Yeah.
cannot affect the influx of people in North Idaho, but we can be a positive influence on what happens because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Same thing happens in Spokane, Tri-Cities. I'm from Tri-Cities. That's like a bubble beyond bubbles. Like,
Is it?
It is insane how little is affected in that area from major
What's the
market
draw to
systems.
the Tri-City? Why are people moving there?
Got a number of things. We got 300 days of sunshine. We've got 5 or 6 golf courses. We have a continental climate, so we have 4 seasons. Beautiful fall, a beautiful spring, but not nearly as much precipitation in the winter as even 2 hours north in Spokane. So my girlfriend lives in Spokane, and I live in Spokane half the time, and I'm living in Tri-Cities. I'm building a house down there right now, and I can't tell you how many times I was like, oh, it's December 17th. It's gorgeous. It's cold outside. I can see my breath, but it's gorgeous. And she's like, well, it's overcast and snowing here.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it's that. Economically, I can only speak from just looking at it from a kind of an uneducated perspective. We had a lot of people come in due to projects that were government related. Hanford is just northwest of Tri-Cities. If you're unfamiliar with Hanford, it was a nuclear power reservation. We enriched 93% of the plutonium and uranium that is in all the atomic weapons in America. Just south of here. It's So a very proud moment for us during the Cold War and that kind of stuff. John F. Kennedy came down and talked in Richland, Washington, back in like 1962. It's not necessarily as much. Everybody now says, oh, it's Hanford that's keeping this alive. Hanford only employs Hanford and all the people that. The companies the private enterprises that help Hanford, I think it's about 25,000 people. Don't quote me, but it's right around there. So we got 307,000 people in the valley, and so those 25,000 aren't nearly as important as the people that came from the generation before that ran Hanford, and the generation before that ran Hanford, and everybody else that started building enterprises around to support those people. So a lot of medical, a lot of agriculture. And lots of sunshine.
Okay.
So,
great.
Yeah.
So you're building a house out there?
I am.
Is that for you personally, or is that an investment?
It's me personally. Yeah.
Okay.
Building my forever home.
Nice.
Yeah.
So is the girlfriend moving?
She is. Yeah. We're coming down, and she's deserves some major kudos for putting up with me. I'm building a 3,200 square foot 1-bedroom house.
Oh God.
And, now, granted, there's room for improvement if we ever decide to
throw
have
up some
kids.
walls for
I can
kids.
throw some walls up, but it's literally going to be a large master with a large ensuite master bath, and then a couple of bathrooms situated, and then a very large open area with a 3,200 square foot shop underneath. So
That sounds fun.
We're being weird. I'm being weird.
So it's a
She's
shop
just
house?
following. It's a what?
Is it a shop house?
It's a shop house.
Okay, so you got a shop under you.
Yeah, yeah. Daylight basement, and the entire basement is going to be
cool.
a shop and a garage.
Nice.
So, yeah,
That sounds like a fun house.
it's going to be weird. Yeah, she's a wonderful person for following along.
When's that going to be done?
Should be dried in by October, and I'm hoping to.
Okay.
I'm kind of a weirdo, so I want to run Romex myself, and I want to trim the electrical out myself. I like to add about twice as many breakers as you actually need, and basically every single electrical outlet's going to be a home run. I'm just kind of a weirdo when it comes to stuff like that. I want to have like a really nice, strong electrical system in the home. So I'm going to do all that myself, and then I'll bring an insulator in and a drywaller in, and then hopefully, if all goes as planned, I'm going to have the entire extended family for a big Thanksgiving feast.
Right
So
on.
that's my goal. So wish me
funny.
luck.
Running Romex. That's so most of the flips I've done, I don't usually do anything, but I'll come in and do electrical work.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's fun.
But that's the fun work for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll take care of that. We'll save some money.
Two
we don't
peas
need
in
an
a pod.
electrician.
How could you pay somebody $100 an hour to run romance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you see for the future for you? And so Montana, you're gonna try to get Montana as a state?
You mean future for me with Broadmark?
Yeah.
I gave my boss my 7-year notice about a month and a half ago.
Oh, okay.
Told him I want
quite
to do
a
this for
notice.
7 years, and I'll retire at 45, or I'll move into being a developer or something like that. It was more of a joke than it was serious, but the more and more I thought about it, I like the idea of been here for 4 years, so that'll be just a touch over a decade. Between 10 to 12 years with Broadmark. I really respect the system, and I want to grow Eastern Washington and the state of Idaho to the potential that it deserves. Jeff and Brian built this company on the Seattle region, the Western Washington, and Pacific Northwest. They went into Portland pretty early, if I remember correctly. I'm not too educated on exactly where they went, and they came over and did some loans over here. But I think that by having me over here and potentially somebody else within the next 5 years, we can be a really positive influence on new construction and development projects here.
Yeah.
And so that's basically my goal. I like to be here. I don't want to be anywhere else. I was offered Boise. Brian's going to get mad at me for saying this. Sorry, Brian. But I said, great, yeah, I really want Boise. I'd like to do that. And he's like, great, so you got to leave Eastern Washington and move to Boise.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, no, I'm sorry. I don't want to do that. Eastern Washington and Northern Idaho, that's my stomping grounds. And I believe in it here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do this job without believing in it. So I believe in what we do here in Coeur d'Alene, north of Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint, Hayden, Rathdrum, west obviously to Spokane, Liberty Lake, Spokane Valley. My grandmother lived in Spokane Valley my entire growing up on South Blake. I can think of her little tiny green home with a one-car garage. That garage that was all one piece.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember those?
Oh, yeah.
Like it came out like this. It was this really weird thing where if you were standing in front of the garage and somebody opened it, you could get like kicked onto your tush.
Yeah. Sometimes they have the big dangerous springs.
Yeah, big crazy ones, right. I love it here. I love Tri-Cities. I love Pendleton and Hermiston and Prosser. This is my stomping grounds, and I wouldn't leave it. So that's my goal process for the next 7 to 10 years.
Okay.
Maybe I'm longer than 7 years, but I'd like to see this place. I'd like to be a part of the growth here. And like we said earlier, if we can't stop the growth, we need to be a positive influence on the growth. And that's my goal, is to be a positive influence on the growth. Take part in the projects that make sense. Hopefully by helping, guys like you doing a three single family residence project, they're going to do 5 next time and 7 the time after that, and however you want to do that, right?
Yeah.
Guys that make sense, that think very common sense worthy and introspectively about what their society is, are going to kick out the big crazy developers from other states that want to just throw something up because it's going to make money. I think guys like you and me should focus heavily on, sure, we need to make money, I understand that, but we also need to add to the culture of the society of where we live.
Yeah, and that's what I love about, there's not many builders in this area that really kind of take that extra little bit of care, and so it's mostly all just about profit, but
Absolutely.
I really like what Greenstone does. Do you know Greenstone?
Absolutely.
They'll build a neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's not just throwing lots up or it's not just throwing houses up on every single lot, but they'll have plenty of paths, parks.
Right.
They really try to make it nice.
Just to make sure I follow you, Greenstone's Kendall Yards, right?
Yeah, they've got a few different. They've got some in Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene. Yeah, but they do a lot in Spokane as well.
Right.
But for the most part, from what I've seen, and those are unique. Those are like what neighborhoods used to be.
Right. That's a really
and
good
it
way
seems
of putting
like
it.
the majority of the spec neighborhoods that come out these days, it's just on a prairie, and you have land, and that's it, and some grass, and vinyl fences.
Yeah.
And it's just there's no character.
It's cutting corners.
Yeah, and it's not real family friendly at all.
Right.
But it'd be great to develop something like that someday. I envision myself putting together neighborhoods like that.
I love that. You're literally preaching to my heart right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I want to. So the majority of our audience, they're most of them, they just flip houses or own rental properties,
Right.
or they want to.
Right.
Do one of the two. But do you have any general advice for those kind of somewhat seasoned investors that have never done any kind of new construction projects before, or development, that want to get into it? What kind of general advice do you have for the people that they'll probably just not learn until they get into it, but they should really be aware of?
Sure. Taking a step out of my dad's book, cut the headaches. Right.
Yeah.
So everything's a headache, and the more and more you can work with somebody from project to project, whether it's your lender, your framer, your windows guy, your roofer, keeping those, it's all about relationships.
Yeah.
So stop worrying so much about the bottom dollar and start thinking about how, you can carry a crew with you from project to project. That's something I see a lot in flip homes and even in new construction, smaller new construction projects.
Okay.
The second thing I would say
So
is
don't
do
focus
not
so much on the
over-leverage.
cost and just what you're going to make and what you're going to be able to duplicate.
Yes. Think about the long-term picture.
Mhm.
When we were 9 years old, when I was 9 years old and throwing a temper tantrum about something, my dad would sit down on one knee and go, "Are you going to remember this when you're 20?" And the answer is no, right? Because even when you're 9, you're like, I think I know what it's going to be like to be when I'm 20, and no, I'm not going to care about this. So think about every single project as a way to make yourself look better in the next project, not a way to make yourself the most money in this project. A lot of hard money lenders out there gave guys like me a bad rap because I'm sure you've heard these terms. You're only as good as your last project. That's something that I've heard with, from glassy-eyed, hard money lenders that aren't really trying to create relationships. It's the guys that create relationships. I met you through Thomas Citron.
Yeah.
He's a hard money lender out of Spokane that is very, very, very head set on creating relationships. And that's what you do. So my advice to people out there that are either looking to or are early on in getting something going, or keeping going, keep those relationships. Make sure that your ethics and your character play a huge role in everything you do.
Yeah.
That's all you have. Right. That being said, sign contracts. Mm-hmm. Don't shake hands. That's another thing. Don't ever shake hands and just trust people. Robert Frost said good fences make good neighbors. You can bring that into this. We can all be friends as long as there's something in between us that's on a piece of paper that says that I'm going to do what I'm going to do and you're going to do what you're going to do. And that's a legal thing that makes us both sleep at night. You and I have a friendship, and we also have a business relationship with many, many documents in between us, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Right. So that means that we're covered. You're never going to look at me and be like, I wonder what he's doing behind the scenes, because you've already looked and researched, sent documents. We've already done all that stuff. That's something that people don't think about. They want to, so there's a middle
And they
ground.
might have contracts with their partners that they're getting into a project with, but they sometimes, I know I've been guilty of it a lot. You hire contractors to do jobs on flips or handymen. You never really do anything. You don't have a signed around contract with them at all.
Right.
But I would imagine when you're building houses, doing it all.
Even if you're flipping, make it easy. Make it easy. I lent a couple of guys I know $3,500. It's not because I was really worried about where that money was going, but because I see a lot of potential in those two gentlemen who are going to be building my home down in Tri-Cities now. But the first thing we did was I lent them $3,500. That was nothing to me at the time, but I wanted to give them a piece of paper that showed that I respect them as a business person, right? So here's a piece of paper that says that I gave you a loan. And there's no interest on this loan. We just need to have this interaction between us because you guys need to get used to the title company if you're ever going to be a builder, right? Title company is going to be handing you papers all day long, right? Yeah. So I think that's a really good thing. The other thing is that don't over leverage yourself. Don't get greedy. A lot of people, they got their one lender and that lender funds them 2 flips. And they thought, God, but there's another great deal. I found another great deal this morning. I'm gonna go to my lender. Lender says, well, I'm not gonna fund another one with you. So 2s only. So then they go find somebody else to fund it.
Yeah.
Right? Now they've got another lender on 1, maybe 2. The first lender has the other 2, but then there's this other screaming deal, and they go to their second lender, and the guy's like, dude, you already got 2 with me. Everything's going to be fine. Like, just get these done. I'm not going to lend you another one. So they find a third lender.
Yep.
This is like a disaster.
And then they start getting second liens on everything. With
If
other
anybody
lenders.
thinks if that's good, then you need to go find another job.
Yeah.
Don't. If you think that's a good idea, don't do it. Make sure that when you're paying interest on money, it's a necessity, not like just a perk. I fund big multi-million-dollar projects all the time, and one of the first things I have to do to get those projects funded is I have to go to the developer and go, gosh, there's this $230,000 developer fee that's built into your pro forma, and who does that go to? And it takes me about 3 days for them to finally say, me. And I go, so by borrowing $230,000, you're literally only going to make this much money because you're borrowing money to pay yourself to do a job when you're the one that's going to make the money on the end anyways.
Uh-huh.
So you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
So be careful. Like, that's a good thing to say, is just don't get greedy.
Yeah.
Just do it the right way. Don't try to get paid off of a loan. Do it the right way.
So the last dozen or so deals that I've done, and I don't know if this is the most financially responsible way to get it into a deal, but I don't usually buy into a deal unless I can get it 100% financed, because it's has 30% equity in it right from the start. But I always want to make sure I have enough money in savings for when things don't go well.
Sure.
And I always make sure if I'm doing 3 projects, I want to have 3 sets of savings for when things don't go well.
Right.
Because I always dip into it, like almost immediately. Like on this project we're working on now. I mean, I said I only had 15 into it. I did initially into the land, but I've already got like 40 into it with all the pre-construction costs I didn't even think of.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's always good to have a little bit. I feel like whenever you're working in real estate projects, try to keep as much in the bank as you can, because you're almost always going to need it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you probably shouldn't do a deal unless you can get it 100% financed, but don't go crazy and bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah, I would agree with you in some ways. I wouldn't say 100% financed.
That's okay. Yeah.
I think that that's a way to get it done. Obviously, I'm going to argue as your lender to borrow as little money as possible, because that's the less amount of money that you borrow, the less fees and interest you pay. Mm-hmm. So if you want to be patient and wait 6 months to get the amount of capital needed to only borrow this much, and you guys did that, so you say that that's the way you do it, and maybe that's the way you do it with flipping houses. That's not the way you did it with my loan. You guys came in with the land free and clear. I mean, that was like a major reason why I could speed load that whole thing.
Yeah.
Was because you came in with a very large amount of equity in that project already.
Yep. A
lot of guys come to me and go, man, Matt, I got this great idea.
It's a great
I'm
deal.
Build these houses. All I need you to do is buy the land, fund the construction, and help me sell them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a second, so what are you going to do? Because if I'm going to do all that, why don't I just buy the land? Why would I give you all the profit? If I'm going to buy the land, I'm going to fund the construction, I'm going to work with the developer, I'm going to get everything done. You guys brought in a very large amount of equity into that project by bringing the land in free and clear.
Right. And maybe I should rephrase what I mean by getting it 100% financed is I get it 100% financed creatively, not with just one loan.
Sure.
But I usually have partners.
Yeah, there you go.
In everything I do. But maybe I should rephrase that. I have partners that also help, or I have a rental house that has a lot of equity. That's my partner.
There you go. Absolutely.
That I can cross-collateralize.
It's all about collateral.
Yeah.
Finding things the smartest way to do it. Partners are a really good way to go. You guys are a great example of that. Don't get a partner to fund the whole thing, because then they're going to ask for 20, 30, I've seen 40 and 50% of the equity down. So whatever hey, Nick, I want to come in. You guys want to build 3 houses. I'll fund the whole thing. I'm not going to charge you any interest or fees, but when you get done, whatever you get in profit, you just split with me. Yeah, I see that all the time.
That's a big chunk.
Right. That's
and
if
that's the only way you can do it,
Absolutely.
And if they've done it before,
get started.
And it's
Get
your
foot in
first
the
deal,
door.
and if they have experience, I would jump on that.
If you like them, but a partner is a marriage without the sex.
Exactly.
Remember that. A partner is, unless you're lucky, a partner is a marriage without the sex. And so think about anybody you partner with. It's not just somebody you think you can get along with. It's somebody that you vetted, drank beers with, had arguments with, and you know you can get along with. And that's the partner for you. And then you get started like that, and then eventually you graduate to getting a loan, and then those people can turn into your equity partners for just the cash in you need to get those loans. And so with you guys, you guys were talking about, here's this going on. We're looking at, you guys bought lots outright at a premium. Now you're going to make you're going to make good money, but take those same 3 lots that you bought at a premium. And imagine if we could buy a piece of land, develop it into 5 lots, and get the same amount of money per home that you guys are getting. Now all of a sudden we're starting to cook with gas, right? So we're like, okay, so I bought those lots at a premium, I got it done, I made this great relationship with your builders, North Star Construction. They seem like incredible people, so we got all this done. Now down the road, let's go, okay, what if we find a piece of land, buy that, and then Broadmark can fund the development and construction. Everything's a numbers game. We got to make sure it works, right? But that's the cool part about it, is you get to kind of step up as you go, smartly, calmly, no hurry, and don't over leverage.
I agree. But leverage has really helped me over the years.
Leverage is good. Over leverage.
I've just,
key.
but you got to treat it like a loaded gun.
Yeah, don't leverage. I didn't say don't leverage. Don't over leverage.
Right. Over leverage is, I feel like, like you're taking too much. You're taking beyond what you can safely get out of it for.
Yeah,
if you
absolutely.
if you need to dump a property, that's what I always look for in a deal before I jump in. Could I get out easily and still make money?
Yeah.
If I had to get out easily, could I get out if 6 months from now the economy starts taking a dive and still be okay? That's how I make my decisions usually. And you got to have backup plans too. What would this rent for if I couldn't sell it?
There you go.
And what would my mortgage be on what I'll be all in?
Absolutely.
So you got to have 2 or 3 backup plans. For
WCS, my dad said it
thing.
for years. Worst case scenario every time. Always calculate your worst case scenario. If you think everything's going to happen on a sunshiny day every time, you're going to get burned. Yeah. Because sunshine doesn't happen every day, right? So I agree with you. Yeah. And leverage is important. We all need to leverage, right? There's people out there. Obviously, my whole job is built on people having these great ideas and not enough to get the deal done, but enough to get the deal going. Go find a good financial partner and get it done. Yeah. One of the things that Peter Mayusi, my head underwriter, which I would not be here without him, and he's with all intents and purposes my partner in crime with this whole thing. He says, we're not we're expensive debt, but we're a cheap partner. Because we do everything that a partner does and more, because we've got 400
You're vetting
loans.
the deal.
Yeah, Peter's been doing this since 16. Peter, if you're listening to this, I don't remember how many loans you've done, but he's done hundreds of loans for Broadmark. Try to go find a partner that's going to come in and do the kind of heavy lifting that we do and have the same advice and the same experience that we've got.
Yeah.
That's kind of what what you look for in those situations.
I couldn't agree more, because I've gotten a lot of hard money loans, and I always look at them as a partner that's not as expensive as a partner. Right. And I wouldn't be able to do it without them. I mean, I might, but I might be if I just dip into my bank account and buy this property cash.
Sure.
What happens if an emergency comes up? Right. Now I have all my money in this property. I see that as more risky than just getting a loan. Right.
Which is where relationships come into play. And always check, and you've heard me say this in front of your whole group, always, always, always research who you're borrowing money from. Find out how many times they foreclosed on somebody. Find out what their REO number is, real estate owned. Yeah. REO is a nice way of saying foreclosures, right? If they own real estate and they're a lender, they own the real estate because they foreclosed on somebody. Yeah. So why did they foreclose on them?
They wrote a bad deal.
They wrote a bad deal, or they have a bad borrower. I've seen both. I've never seen a bad deal with Broadmark, but I've seen a bad deal with a lot of other people. And I've seen bad borrowers in both places. I'm dealing with a bad borrower right now, and I got $40,000 tied into a deal that is a bad borrower. But that's why you make sure that your collateral systems are fine. Everything's going well, and worst case scenario, I got to go ask the court systems to figure this whole thing out for me. But that's the one thing that nobody wants to do. And if you find anybody that says, hard money is easy, just give me an address and I'll write you a check.
Yeah.
Be very weary, right? Because if they're not giving you the third degree, and if it's very, very easy to borrow money, there's a strong likelihood they're planning on owning your property.
Yeah.
So you want it to be a little bit annoying. Peter and I are annoying.
Yeah, it can't be all too
Our
easy.
first loans are annoying a little bit because we want all the questions answered. We want to know if you've thought of every single thing. And the reason we're doing that is because we care about our borrowers, and we want to make sure that every time we ask them a question, we want an answer.
But you care about your investors too.
We care about our investors.
I know another lender in the area that they don't care as much.
Right.
And they'll do a loan if they can push it through.
Right.
Because they get their broker fees, and then all the risk is on their investor, and that's it.
And if they lose that one investor, they'll go find another. I probably know exactly who you're talking about, who shall remain nameless, but
I want to say it so bad.
Yeah,
not
me
gonna.
too. Spokane?
Yeah.
Downtown?
Maybe.
Yeah, so,
Anyway.
look for somebody that's playing Big Brother if you're a lender.
Yeah.
Look for somebody that might be like, God, I want to roll my eyes at this guy 3 times because he's asked me the same question 3 times. I've already handed him that information or her that information.
Yeah.
But the cool part is, rather than being frustrated with somebody that's asked for it 3 times, go, man, they are really, she is dead set on having that information before she closes this loan, or however that works. That's good.
Yeah.
That means that they're looking at your best, you're looking at your bottom line and saying, I want to make sure that, Nick and Tyler that do this, or that, Robin and Megan do this, or, other people I've worked with. I want to make sure they got this handled. I want to make sure they're going to do well, because if they don't do well, and we end up owning that property, it doesn't matter how I do financially. I'll lose 10 times more in the bad talk afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I also don't ever want to do that to anybody. So,
right.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to go get a loan with Broadmark and they've never built a house before, and can we throw an example out there?
Sure.
And I know this is going to vary for anybody, but let's say somebody has some experience, a little bit of experience, maybe flipping houses or owning rentals. And let's say they have, I don't know, $50,000 in the bank.
Sure.
Could they potentially build a house if they were able to find a good deal on a lot somewhere in North Idaho or Spokane?
Yes.
And have a contractor partner to kind of help them out. Like what are some of the expectations that Broadmark would have?
Well, it's not just $50,000 in the bank. It's bringing the lot in outright plus $50,000 or something like that. So the $50,000 in the bank we'd never touch, but we want to know that somebody has the ability to save money. So I'm only 38 years old. I'm not gonna go crazy into what I've got around in the bank or anything. But I built. My dad was over leveraged my whole life. Bless his heart. Sorry, Dad, but he was. And as a result, I'm fearful of leverage. Now, I'm okay with borrowing money, but I borrow once, I pay it off.
Yeah.
I'm liquid. Okay, great. Let's do it again. I'll borrow it
Is
again.
that borrowing money for assets or liabilities?
Anything.
Okay.
I just don't.
So debt in general.
I'm more liquid than most people I like a car. I want it. Oh, that's what the price is. Okay, let's look at the smaller one. Oh, I can write a check for that one. I'll buy that one.
Okay.
It just is who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
But other people aren't always like that. My goal is to look at leverage is really important. So if you wanted to build a house, great. One by yourself. You've never built a house before. There's some questions I want to answer. Who are you asking? Who's your framer? Who's your roofer? Have you thought about this? It gets a little convoluted, so a less convoluted answer is, if somebody has never built a house before, I would say, let's go buy 2 lots and then go hire a general contractor and get that done. You and Tyler, it's a great example. You had the cojones to figure this whole thing out. You went out of your way to figure this thing out. You found everybody.
Well, Tyler brought the deal. I just helped him figure it out.
Tyler brought the deal.
Yeah.
Neither you or Tyler have built a house on your own, right?
Nope.
You guys ever framers?
Nope.
Okay, right?
Well-
Do you guys roof?
No.
Okay, right? But who else signed the loan? Your operating
Yeah.
agreement has a general contractor in it.
Oh yeah.
That's how people do it. So you guys only have 3. That's, I could probably get 2 done. I got 2 done in Kennewick in
Well, we have a
in
4th
March.
one. I don't know if we told you.
A 4th house.
A 4th one that we're building. Yeah, we haven't asked for the money yet.
Cool.
But we have
So
one
you
that we're
did tie up
closing.
that lot?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good,
It's.
good,
I
good.
think it's closed.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. So now
So-
you need a 5th and a 6th, and we'll do a second loan of 3 houses.
Yeah. Need another $300,000 if you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
let me find it.
Okay. Is it
My
somewhere
point
in
is-
that $1 billion fund you got there?
Somewhere, right?
Yeah.
The point is, you do it right. So if somebody's looking to bridge the gap between flipping and new construction, which maybe a lot of people listening to this podcast is it a podcast?
Investor Shed podcast.
Investor Shed podcast.
Yeah, I named it that because I built a shed in my backyard to do a podcast in.
I love it.
And it wasn't quite big enough, so it's just my office there that's never used. It has a little bar. It's just not big enough to like have. Yeah,
I love it.
but this office works great for now.
Great. So the idea is build your system slowly. Don't ever try to shoot the moon, right? Especially in our industry. That's how people lose. Everybody's scared in real estate investment because everybody knows somebody that lost a bunch of money. The people that lost a bunch of money got greedy. And if somebody's listening right now lost a bunch of money, I don't mean it's just you. There's exceptions to the rules, but there's something that happened.
Yeah.
Because my dad was trying to build a couple of big fancy houses in 2008. It was I wouldn't use the word greedy, but he shot the moon, right? He figured out I can make more money on 2 big houses than I do on 2 small houses. But 2 small houses would have sold at the end of 2008, and 2 big houses sat long enough to put him in a really bad position. So if you're looking to bridge that gap, if you're a real estate investor that's maybe a real estate agent that's looking to get into flipping, or a flipper looking to get into new construction, nice and slow. Go find a general contractor that'll build it for you, cost plus.
Yep.
Or bid it out. Sure, I understand you're not going to make as much money that way as if you do it the other way. Settle down. Stop trying to skip gears. You don't go from first gear to third gear.
Yeah.
You go first to second to third to fourth. So let's make sure we're not skipping second gear. Second gear is if you want to go build some houses, find a general contractor that's going to build them for you. I will close that loan all day long. If that general contractor has a bit of a resume and I can prove that he or she is doing a good job and can get these homes built, I don't care who the guarantor is, as long as they've got a little bit of financial strength and they're willing to come in and get this thing figured out on their own. Mm-hmm. And then eventually that person gets to say, you know what? During loan 2, I was building these 2 houses. I went and got my general contractor's license. I've seen 4 of these got built. I've got this as my roofer. This guy's my framer. This lady's my windows lady. I've got a roofing lady. All these things going on. Now all of a sudden, boom! Guess what? Now they get to stop paying a general contractor to get their own houses done.
Yeah. In Idaho, I think it costs $35 to get your license. Plus, you got to have insurance.
It's creepy. Yeah, general contractor's license means nothing. But by having a general contractor do it, that's not necessarily what I'm looking at. But I'm going to immediately ask for a resume from that general contractor, and addresses of homes built and sold.
Yeah.
Right.
Homes built and sold.
If they handed me a list of 10 homes built, and I said, now hand me a list of 10 homes sold, and
There's
there's
holes
nothing,
in the ground.
that's a rough deal. Anybody can can take 3 cars and make one.
It's hard work.
You got to sell it.
Yeah, contractors have a tough job.
Absolutely. Good contractors have a tough job.
Yeah.
Regular, like you said, I can go get a general contractor's license in a weekend, but you gotta put the work to it. It's a very odd system that we have in America, that you can just get a GC license without any history.
I know.
So
almost as easy as getting a real estate license.
Almost.
Just joking. Barely. Yeah. All right. Any other advice to investors out there that you want to give?
Reach out to people that know more than you.
Yeah.
Mark Twain once said that the best thing I ever did was surround myself with people that are smarter than me. Smartest thing I ever did was maybe it was Einstein. Anyways, the point is that if you're being smart, surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. Make sure that you're not trying to make decisions off the cuff. Make sure you're getting, good advice, not listening to your friends. No advice at a bar is worth anything for the most part. Do it right. Be slow. Be ready to make a small amount of gains. Understand that your first 2 houses, if you break even, that was free education. You didn't lose money.
Yeah.
Even if you broke even, and a lot of people feel like, oh, I lost. I'm so bad at this. I broke even on my first 2 houses. No, you didn't.
Better than a loss, and you got education.
You went to college for free.
For the rest of your life, you can drive by that house and be like, I built that.
Exactly. I spent 3.5 years paying off my college tuition, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to build a couple houses and break even and you learn a boatload in the process, that's an incredible endeavor. Now you're going to say, great, move on. I don't have any debt because of those houses. Sure, I didn't make a lot of money, but I get to now build 2 houses with all the information I learned from the first 2 that was free knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it like that. That's the best advice I could give anybody.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you for having me, man.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thanks for tuning in to the Investor Shed podcast. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel for instant access to all future episodes. If you or someone you know has investing experience or stories to share, reach out to us in the comments or via email.